For shocking questions Jesus asks you at 3 a.m. before heaven, are you ready for the devastating truth? It was just past midnight when darkness blanketed the small town of Maplewood. The only light came from the flickering street lamp at the end of the road. The wind howled like a lost soul, rattling windows and sending shivers down spines. Everyone was asleep, or so it seemed. For some, that whisper of the spirit world had begun. There was a legend of a ghostly figure who wandered the streets at 3 a.m., claiming to be the messenger of truth. People said that he was an extension of their deepest fears, appearing in their dreams, asking questions that dug into the very core of their beings. The locals warned, if you hear him call, it's too late to turn back. Tonight, the air felt electric, thick with tension, as if the very fabric of reality was about to twist. Jake, a skeptic by nature, hadn't he believed in any of this superstition. Yet here he was, wide awake, heart racing, sitting on the edge of his bed. Sweat trickled down his brow. He listened, half expecting to hear a voice whisper his name. The walls felt like they were closing in, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. The clock struck 3. Suddenly, the room was filled with an eerie silence, deafening and palpable. Then, he heard it, a soft, distant voice, calling from beyond the veil, "Are you ready?" The hairs on his arms stood on end. It was a question that pierced deeper than any knife. A feeling of dread settled in his stomach. "Who is there?" Jake called weakly, but no reply came. Panic surged like a tidal wave. Outside, the street lamp flickered, shadows writhed as if answering his call. He glanced at the window, just in time to see a figure standing in the dim light. Was it just his eyes playing tricks? No, it was real. The apparition moved closer, its face obscured in darkness but radiating a sense of unnerving calm. "What do you want?" Jake thought, his mind racing through every unsettling story he'd ever heard. The figure's whisper grew louder, echoing in his mind, "What have you done with your days? Do you truly want to know your fate?" Each word hit him like a hammer, shattering the illusion of control he held tightly in the daylight. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The pressure built in Jake's chest. This was more than just a haunting, it was a reckoning. He could feel the walls closing in, the air suffocating him. "What are you looking for?" he shouted, voice hoarse, desperate for an answer. The figure stepped closer, revealing a glimpse of a familiar face, one he thought he'd buried in the past. His breath hitched. Tears welled in his eyes. The figure lingered long enough to feel like a warm gust before it retreated into the shadows, leaving behind lingering questions that twisted like smoke. Why now? What did this mean? What was waiting on the other side? As the world around him returned to its stillness, an alarming realization struck him like a lightning bolt: this was only the beginning. The questions would keep coming and he might not be ready for the answers. Jake sat frozen in his room, heart pounding in time with the relentless ticking of the clock. The questions the figure had asked echoed in his mind, layering fear over confusion, making reality feel blurred. Thoughts collided, chaotic and relentless. Why now? Why here? What did his past have to do with tonight? He glanced back to the window. The streets lay empty, but the air hummed with an unnatural energy. Jake's skin prickled as he recalled the tales of others who had encountered the nocturnal specter. Those who had seen him often came away with horror on their faces, haunted by revelations they couldn't escape. Was this what awaited him? An inescapable truth. A grasp of courage tightened in his chest. He took a deep breath, hoping to steady his racing thoughts. Jake was not one to back down, especially from the things that frightened him most. With a trembling hand, he reached for the light switch. The small room flickered into brightness, casting away the shadows. "Show yourself," he shouted, the bravado in his voice a thin veil over the panic threatening to swallow him whole. Silence fell heavy, draping over him like a wet blanket. The tension stretched until he could almost hear the fabric of reality rippling in agitation, and then, just as suddenly as before, the whisper returned, curling around him like a vine, "What binds you to your mistakes?" Jake's stomach dropped. He staggered back against the wall as memories surged forth, faces, moments of pain, regret. He thought of Elisa, the best friend he had betrayed, the one who had trusted him completely. The thought of facing her again felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, with no sure footing in sight. It wasn't just his past he feared, it was the confrontation with his own self-loathing. The specter of the figure loomed large in his thoughts, a representation of everything he wanted to forget. "I didn't mean to. I never wanted to hurt her," he stammered, half talking to himself. Could he ever make it right? He had buried that part of his life deep, refusing to face it all over again. "Then why do you carry it?" The voice pressed, soft yet unyielding, tinged with an ominous quality that filled every corner of the room. "Because I couldn't face her," Jake cried out, frustration mingling with desperation. "I was scared." The shadow at the window shifted, morphing through a haze of darkness. "Fear is a chain, binding your heart to what you want to flee." Each word resonated like a chilling truth, cutting straight to his core. Suddenly, the shadows coalesced, and a shimmering shape began to form. The face of his past was mirrored in the apparition. "You cannot hide from me," it murmured, the voice melding with a haunting familiarity. Was it Elisa? Or was it merely the manifestation of his guilt and unresolved feelings? Jake's breath quickened. "What do you want from me?" "Truth," it responded, drawing closer, the glow illuminating the shallow contours of its face. "And the price of neglecting you." Just then, the lights flickered violently. The oppressive darkness retaliated, swallowing the light. Jake's heart raced as he felt the room shift around him, the walls beginning to pulse with a heartbeat of their own. The figure's voice crescendoed, drowning him in a wave of dread. "The truth awaits, and so do your burdens." With the shadows now swirling like a predator closing in, Jake realized he was running out of time. Was he ready to face what lay underneath the weight of his mistakes? And at that moment, as the world around him dimmed to near darkness, one final question pierced through the chaos: how far will you go to unchain your heart? Jake's mind swirled as the boundaries blurred. There was no turning back now. All he could do was hold on tightly as both dread and revelation danced just out of reach. What awaited him in the depths of this haunted night? Everything would change, or would it? Jake's heart thundered in his chest like a drum, a stark contrast to the suffocating silence of his room. Shadows twisted and curled around him, closing in as the air thickened with dread. The figure loomed ever closer, its form shifting, becoming indistinguishable from the darkness that seeped through the corners of the room. "Your truth," the specter whispered, sharper now, cutting through the silence like glass shattering. "You've buried it, but it still breathes. Are you prepared to confront it?" Every instinct urged him to flee, yet Jake stood paralyzed. The face, was it truly the specter of Elisa? His best friend, the very person he had abandoned when she needed him most. He felt as if he were being drawn into a black hole, and the gravitational pull of guilt was stronger than any fear. "What do you want from me?" The words came out raw, a plea tinged with desperation. He clenched his fists, nails digging into his palms. The pain grounded him, if only for a moment. The specter, now resembling an echo of Elisa's features, leaned closer. "You're not only afraid of what I represent. You fear facing yourself." With a sudden rush, memories flooded back, nights spent laughing, sharing dreams, and then that fateful day. The revelation, the betrayal. He had let her down in the worst way possible, and the worst part. He had run away instead of owning up. "I was scared," he croaked, tears threatening to spill. "I didn't know how to make things right." Scared of her? Or scared of the truth? The apparition pressed, its voice dripping with eerie serenity. What if the truth is your only path to freedom? Jake felt the air shift, charged with electric tension. He braced himself against the wall, half-heartedly hoping it would provide some protection. What do you mean? Your negligence didn't just hurt her, it wrapped you in a cocoon of regret. That's why it's easy to hate yourself. You're refusing the growth that comes from the pain. Silence enveloped him. The spectre's words began to gnaw at the root of his denial, together pulling Jake into a spiral of doubt. Was he truly so weak that he couldn't face the aftermath of his choices? Was the betrayal too deep for forgiveness? Step into the light, the figure urged, gesturing to the faint luminescence struggling against the darkness encroaching around him. Face what you've done. You cannot outrun the consequences forever. As the light flickered one last time, illuminating different corners of the room, Jake felt the weight of those memories, sharp and cruel, pressing down on him. He plunged into the light, heart racing. It was blinding, disorienting, he felt as if he were falling into a chasm of self-discovery. Jake, the voice echoed, softer now, wrapping around him like a whisper of hope amidst the chaos. Remember, confronting the truth is the first step towards redemption. And just like that, the light faded. Darkness surged back, pulling him down into its depths. The comforting warmth dissipated, replaced by chilling uncertainty. Will you rise? The figure asked, its visage slipping from focus, becoming just another piece of the haunting backdrop. Jake's breath quickened. He realized that the whispers of guilt, the haunting memories, would not simply vanish without confrontation. Not until he acknowledged the truth buried deep within. As memories sped by Elisa's tear-streaked face, his own cowardice it struck him with a jolt. He could either stay submerged in darkness or claw his way back to the surface. But it wouldn't be easy. Your choice has been made, the figure neared him once more. In its haunting gaze, Jake swallowed hard, wrestling with the fear and discomfort swirling inside him, and then came the final question, echoing through the gloom: how must you move forward to break free of the chains you have forged? Jake stood at the brink, teetering between the bustling past and the uncertain future. In that moment, every shred of courage within him ignited. What would he be willing to do to reclaim his conscience? How far was he prepared to go to finally shed the weight of his regrets? As the darkness seemed to close in, he took a deep breath, ready to dive into the heart of his haunting past because the next revelation might just be the most shocking one yet. Jake gasped as the shadows closed in tighter. His heart raced, thudding painfully against his ribs, echoing the torment inside his mind. The air felt dense, stifling like a heavy fog, and he was keenly aware of every fleeting moment that stretched into eternity. Face it. The specter urged, its eyes burning like embers. Unravel the layers of your denial and see the reality beneath. Reality. The word clanged harshly in his brain, reverberating through his core. He was drowning in a sea of what-ifs and self-inflicted wounds. Finally, a flicker of determination broke through the overwhelming darkness. What if confronting the truth could lead to something more than just pain? Could it offer the slimmest chance of forgiveness? With shaking hands, he reached out, as if he could grasp that shimmering light that felt so unattainable. What do I have to do? He shouted into the void, his voice cracking under the weight of his own desperation. The figure stepped back slightly, dissolving then reforming, its outline sharp against the swirling shadows. First, acknowledge her. Acknowledge what you did. Only then can you work toward redemption. Jake's throat constricted. Could he even say her name? Elisa, the word slipped out, a mere whisper, but it sent a bolt of energy surging through him. Memories crashed over him, laughter on summer nights, promises made under starlit skies, then the hollow silence after the storm. Can you feel it? The specter asked, tilting its head. The weight of your choices. It's real. It pains you. But you've allowed it to consume you, to transform you into a ghost of your former self. He clenched his fists even tighter, the sharp edges of his nails digging in and grounding him. You don't understand. I ran because it hurt too much. I thought avoiding her would shield me. And yet, here you are a prisoner of your own making, it countered. Running from her didn't erase your guilt. It festered. What must you say to break free of those chains? Jake squeezed his eyes shut, memories swirling like a storm. Suddenly, the echo of Elisa's laughter morphed into her sobs. I left her behind, he admitted, the truth spilling from his lips like a wound finally exposed. I was weak, scared, terrified to face what I did. Then stand with that fear, the spectre instructed. Look into the abyss of your guilt. Only then can you truly confront it. Jake hesitated, heart racing anew. Could confronting that raw, jagged pain really lead to healing? With a deep breath, filled with a mix of dread and hope, he opened his eyes. He was flooded anew with memories of Elisa's betrayal and his own selfish retreat. But now, he wasn't standing alone. Forgive me, Elisa, he murmured, turning his gaze to the spot where she used to be, to where her spirit resonated through the darkness. I was too afraid to see the truth. That I lost not just you, but a part of myself in the process. The shadows quivered, as if reacting to his confession. What must you do to ensure her pain was not in vain? The figure pressed. What promise will you make? Promise? Panic shot through him. Promises unraveled into unkempt threads of obligation. But a flicker of resolve ignited in his chest. I promise to find her, to face the consequences of my actions. To make things right. The spectre's face softened. Only then can you walk in the light again. But the threat of darkness will always tempt you to return. Truth washed over Jake, heavy yet cleansing. He turned fully toward the light, a new energy guiding him, flaring within him. The path ahead shimmered with uncertainty, but suddenly it was pulsing with possibility. As he began to step forward, a chilling gust swept past him. The shadows seemed to whisper threats beneath the surge of hope. Are you truly ready for what lies ahead? They hissed. For every revelation comes at a price. Jake squared his shoulders, heart pounding with determination. Bring it on. But even as he spoke those words, a creeping dread settled into his gut, sending shivers racing down his spine. What awaited him as he walked this path of redemption? And looming in the back of his mind remained that one unbearable question: would he survive the confrontation that awaited him, or would the truth shatter him completely? Jake took a deep breath, the taste of ash and smoke leaving a bitter tang in his mouth. With the spectre fading from view, he could feel the pull of darkness slacken slightly. Yet the shadows still lingered, swaying like a tightrope awaiting a single misstep. He stepped forward, drawn by the flicker of a light, an uncertain pathway that seemed to weave through the thick mist that clung to the air. Each step felt heavier than the last, his stomach churned in rebellion against this new journey. As he moved, he glimpsed fragmented images, rushing past him like movie clips, the laughter, the pain, the betrayal. He halted momentarily, clutching his head, the memories attacking him like a swarm of wasps. Why can't I just forget? He thought, desperation clawing at his insides, but the haunting truth burrowed into him. Forgetting meant abandoning Elisa again. He could never do that. Shuddering, he pressed onward, fueled by the burning need to make amends. The glow of the path ahead pulsed like a heartbeat, beckoning him to step into the unknown. Just when he thought he'd find solace, a voice echoed through the shadows, cold and sharp: you think you can just walk away unscathed? You think you can erase the scars? It was familiar, deeply unsettling. The voice belonged to Rachel, Elisa's best friend. In the wake of the betrayal, she had been both a confidant and an accuser. Rachel. Jake gasped, fumbling for words. I didn't mean to hurt you, too. Stop. Her voice cut through him like a blade. You don't get to play the victim now. You left us both, Jake. You abandoned Elisa when she needed you the most. The shadows seemed to thicken around her, spiraling as if they were pulling her into their depths. You want redemption? You need to face the truth about what you did. Please, I know. I know I messed up. Panic threatened to overwhelm him. But I promise to make it right. Right? She mocked, the bitterness dripping from her words. What does that even mean? How can you possibly make things right when you've already taken so much from her? The weight of those words sank into Jake's chest with a thud. Those were the very truths he had been avoiding facing, not just what he had abandoned, but the consequences of those choices. Rachel, I never meant to fall apart. I was scared of losing everything, he stammered, guilt clawing at his throat. Elisa was everything to me. And yet, you chose to run. She stepped closer, her anger palpable, but in her eyes, he saw something else, an ember of sadness. You think it's just about you? No. I know it's about her. It always has been. I want to apologize, to face the pain I caused. I owe her that much. Her expression softened slightly, but uncertainty danced across her features. Do you think it will make a difference? Fractured trust doesn't heal easily, Jake. You'll need to do more than just speak words. I understand, he replied, determination flooding his veins again. I'm ready to confront the truth. I'll do whatever it takes to find Elisa, to tell her I'm sorry. The shadows around them flickered, the weight of knowledge shifting as new paths opened. Rachel's face was etched with doubt, but the swirl around her seemed to ease a little. Then prepare yourself, she warned, her voice a somber tone. The truth requires sacrifice. Are you willing to pay whatever price is demanded? Jake swallowed hard, every nerve in his body on high alert. I don't know what that means, but yes. Turned back. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath him. The light tightened, then exploded into blinding radiance. He staggered, shielding his eyes. When he opened them again, the shadows had reformed behind him, hissing like snakes. Your journey has only begun, they whispered in unison, lacing fear into their tones. Turn back now, and you risk losing everything. Jake felt uncertainty dig its claws deep into his heart. He glanced back at Rachel, who was now blending with the dark. What happens if I fail? Then the truth may shatter you, she replied, her voice fading. Or it could set you free. And as the light beckoned him to follow, dread filled his chest. What awaited him on this new path? What sacrifices would he be forced to make, and would he be strong enough to face the shattered pieces of his past? With every nerve alive with anticipation, he took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to confront whatever awaited him. But in the back of his mind, the question loomed, if the darkness was persistent, what would he lose in his quest for redemption? The bright light enveloped him, pulling him forward into a space that felt simultaneously vast and claustrophobic. The darkness had whispered its threats, but Jake had made his choice. He had taken the leap into the unknown, fear surged through him like a tidal wave, but so too did an unexpected thrill, the promise of a truth that could free him. That he landed on solid ground with a jarring thud, his heart racing. The light dimmed slowly, revealing a wide-open landscape stretched out before him. It was eerily silent. Trees loomed like shadows cast from nightmares, their branches gnarled and twisted. Thick fog swirled at his feet, hiding whatever lay beneath. Jake squinted, trying to see the path ahead amid the enveloping mist. Is anyone there? He called out, his voice trembling as it echoed back at him. Silence. It felt oppressive, closing in on him. He took a shaky step forward, then another, each footfall swallowed by the heavy air. Suddenly, the ground beneath him vibrated. A figure emerged from the fog, a woman draped in a flowing dress, her features obscured. Fear tightened in his throat, yet he felt an inexplicable pull towards her. The moment she spoke, he recognized her voice. Elisa, he breathed, hope mixed with fear flooding his veins. She turned, her face partially illuminated. But the joy he expected to see was absent. Instead, her eyes glimmered with a sorrow that cut deep. Jake, she said softly, you shouldn't be here. What do you mean? I've come to find you to apologize, he pleaded, desperation clawing at him. I need you to understand I never wanted to hurt you. She stepped closer, but the air thickened, it felt as if an entire world stood between them. You're too late, Jake. It's not just about the apology. It's about understanding what you've done, the hurt you've sown. Her voice wavered, the weight of her pain palpable. You left me in my darkest hour. You were my anchor, and you just disappeared. Jake felt the crushing weight of remorse. I know. But I'm ready to face it all, to face you, his voice cracked with emotion. I thought I could just escape the pain and betrayal, but I can't live with it anymore. I'm here now. I'll do anything. Anything. She demanded, her expression hardening. Are you sure you can handle the truth? Can you bear to see the pain you've caused? He swallowed hard, feeling sweat bead on his forehead. I think so. I have to be ready. Just please let me explain. There was a moment of silence, a stretching tautness between them. Then, the fog thickened, the shadows swirling with a life of their own. Very well, Elisa whispered, her tone shifting to one of resignation. But remember, the truth is not a comforting embrace. It is the burn of regret and bitter memories. As she spoke, images flashed around them, scenes of their past, moments both beautiful and devastating. The laughter they shared, the plans they made, but also the betrayal and pain that had suffocated their love. The reality of the broken trust raged like a storm within him. I want to face it, Jake said, fighting back tears. Show me, please. A sudden gust of wind tore through the space, and Jake braced himself, heart pounding. It's time, she said, her voice a mere whisper against the roar of the wind. But before you see, you must answer a question. What? He gasped, clutching his hands into fists. Are you willing to sacrifice your peace for the truth? Those words echoed back to him, shaking his resolve. Would he truly be ready to lose everything he held dear for a chance at absolution? Or would the haunting images of the past be more than he could bear? His heart raced as the wind howled around him, an ominous reminder of what lay ahead. Whatever truth waited for him just beyond the fog, he had a choice to make, and the price may be far greater than he anticipated. In that moment, he felt the ground shift once again beneath his feet, making him question everything he thought he knew. Would confronting the horror of his past lead to salvation or destroy him entirely? As he took a deep breath, steeling himself for the journey into the heart of darkness, he knew one thing for certain: the truth was coming, and he wouldn't be able to hide from it any longer. The fog swirled in a dense spiral around him, and he braced for the inevitable revelation that awaited, teetering on the edge of fate. Would he be strong enough to embrace it, or would the darkness consume him whole? The wind screamed around them, a cacophony of memories clawing at Jake's mind. Elisa's gaze remained locked on him, penetrating, as if she could see straight through to his deepest fears. The air pulsed with tension, the question lingering like a dark cloud. Are you willing to sacrifice your peace for the truth? Jake felt as if the earth was shifting beneath him. Could he truly bear the weight of the truth, the burdens he had long shoved into the darkest corners of his heart? Suddenly, he felt a part of him teetering on the edge of oblivion. The fog swirled angrily around them, stirring shadows that seemed to reach for him like sinister fingers. Yes, he finally managed to choke out, his voice a mix of determination and dread. It was a choice he might regret, but his need for clarity overrode his instinct to flee. Elisa nodded, a faint glimmer of sorrow morphing into something darker. Then prepare yourself, Jake. In an instant, the world around them shifted again. The trees twisted, their forms warping violently as memories began to unfold in vivid detail. Jake was engulfed in haunting images, scenes from a past he desperately wished to forget. He stood in a glaring room, cold and sterile, the scent of antiseptic hanging in the air. A hospital bed lay at the center, and there unmoving was Elisa, pale and hauntingly beautiful, grasping for light that never reached her. A suffocating ache spread through Jake's chest as he witnessed the moment he ran from her, just when she needed him most. The sight seared into his mind. I didn't mean to, he murmured, tears stinging his eyes. "Stop!" Elisa's voice pierced through the chaos. The memories ground to a halt, frozen in time as her form flickered like a flame about to extinguish. "You have to face what you did, Jake. Not just as an observer but as the cause." Jake squeezed his eyes closed as fresh horrors consumed him, racing through his mind like a relentless tide. He could taste the bitterness of regret. "I was scared I didn't know how to handle it." "Neither did I," she replied, her voice trembling, the weight of her grief suffocating. "But I had to face the darkness. You left me to drown in it." He felt guilt splintering his very core. Each word she spoke resonated with fresh pain, a relentless reminder of the severed bond between them. "Tell me how to make it right," he shouted, gasping at the anguish that twisted the air like a knife. Elisa's expression softened momentarily, and she stepped closer, a fragile sense of hope flickering in her gaze. "You must confront the truth behind your fear, the betrayal, the abandonment. You're the only one who can heal this." Before he could respond, the ground shook once again, and the scene around them shifted once more. He found himself standing in the middle of a crowded street, sound roiling around him, laughter, anger, taunts echoing, filled with judgment. He saw faces he recognized, people from his life, friends, family, those who had trusted him. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through, like glass shattering. "Jake! You think you can just walk away from your past? You think we would forget?" A cold sweat broke across his brow. He turned, disoriented, grappling with the truth his actions had repercussions, and those repercussions were far-reaching. "Every decision you made echoes in eternity," Elisa called out, the intensity of her voice drowning out the din. "This isn't just about you. You need to understand that your choices have impacted everyone." Desperation clawed at Jake's gut, the weight of guilt pressing down. "What do I do?" he implored, feeling small amidst the overwhelming chaos of his regrets. "You must embrace the truth, but be warned the cost will be steep," she replied, her tone a solemn reminder of the stakes at hand. "Are you ready?" Jake felt his heart thunder in response. Would he stand firm in this storm of revelations? Would he find the courage to face everything he had long tried to evade? The fog thickened and obscured his vision, the shadows creeping closer, threatening to pull him back into the depths of despair. Elisa's form began to flicker. In and out of focus, her presence ebbing with the rising tension. "Remember, Jake," she whispered, "truth will always find you, but the question remains, will you be brave enough to confront it?" As darkness threatened to envelop him, Jake took a resolute breath. "I am ready," he declared, though doubt gnawed at him. Would this leap into the abyss of truth lead to his redemption, or would it pull him under forever? With his heart racing and echoes of her words still vivid in his mind, he prepared for the final plunge into the memories that haunted him most, knowing full well that what lay ahead could redefine everything he believed to be true about himself. Just as he gathered strength to move forward, the world around him began to dissolve, revealing a path cloaked in an even deeper darkness. What awaited him beyond that veil could either shatter him completely or finally set him free. The world twisted and blurred, colors mixing into a whirlpool of uncertainty as Jake stepped into the ravenous darkness. The shivers of fear raced down his spine, and he felt the air grow thick and heavy around him. Each breath seemed to echo, reverberating with the ghosts of his past faces, voices, laughter forged in betrayal. He clenched his fists, forcing his feet forward, driven by a blend of fear and determination. Suddenly, he was pulled into another memory, a dimly lit room, the air heavy with unspoken words. He was younger, filled with a bravado that now felt painfully naive. Friends surrounded him, their faces lit with smiles, arms wrapped around each other in a sacred bond that he desperately shattered with his own choices. The sounds, the laughter, faded when he turned away, consumed by shadows that loomed nearby. It's just a minor choice, he thought at the time. But choices, he now understood, were more than tiny rips in fabric, they were tears that unraveled entire destinies. Who do you think you are? Someone's voice stabbed through him. He recognized it, Tom. His best friend, the one who had stood by him through everything until he'd chosen another path, one drenched in cowardice. You couldn't even face us when we needed you, could you? Jake felt his heart constrict at Tom's accusing gaze, crystallizing the pain he had long buried. No. I tried to protect you all. He shouted, but the hollow regret was a feeble defense. Protect us. Another voice chimed in, slicing cold, sharp and unforgiving. You destroyed us. Elisa's voice trembled, a soft echo against the thunder of accusations. You have to remember the weight of those words. You forged these chains with your own hands. Suddenly, he stood alone. The crowd had dispersed, melted away into the darkness, leaving only whispers that trickled in like poison. Shadows danced and twisted, morphing into twisted figures of all he had lost, people he had betrayed. Each one echoed his biggest fears, that he was unworthy, unlovable, irredeemable. No. Jake cried out, his voice rising against the whirlwind of memories. I can't. I can't do this. His hands trembled, as if the weight of his guilt would crush him right here, in this spectral realm. Elisa. He bellowed. If you have anything left to tell me, now is the time. The air thickened, silence wrapping tightly around him like a vice. In that moment of quiet, hope flickered. I'm right here, she whispered, materializing as if summoned by his longing. You have to confront the truth, Jake. Don't run. Do you understand? It's time. The shadows closed in, compressing around him like a dark tunnel. Jake's heart sprinted, a drumbeat of suffocating panic. What if it's too much? What if I lose myself in it? How can I face this? By knowing that you did not just turn your back on me, but on yourself, she replied, her voice a balm against the rising tide of darkness. You must forgive yourself as well. Jake staggered back, realization clawing at him. To forgive himself seemed almost sacrilegious. How could he absolve the horror inflicted on others? How could he let himself breathe again amidst the ashes of their shattered past? The darkness roared like an angry beast, and Jake felt himself sinking deeper. Memories crashed around him, every scream, every tear he caused, and he understood now that the real horror was not in staying with the guilt, but in abandoning hope. I will face it. He screamed, determination igniting within him. I will fight. The shadows recoiled, retreating slightly as he stood firm. Then walk forward into the truth. Elisa urged. Let it break you so you can rise anew. With a deep breath, Jake took a step, then another, as he walked towards the truth, towards the core of his fears. What would he find there? Would the revelation save him, or would they crush him utterly? The ground trembled, the air thick with anticipation as he ventured further into the depths, but as he progressed, shadows began looming ominously again. A familiar and ominous question echoed, one that sent his heart into a frenzy. What if the truth is worse than you fear? It was the voice of his long-lost self, lurking in the dark recesses of his mind. Was he prepared for what lay ahead? Only time would tell. Jake leaned into the darkness, trembling as he took another step deeper into the abyss. The shadows loomed larger, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes. Each harrowing figure morphed, becoming a distorted reflection of his guilt, a haunting that clawed at his insides. This was no mere memory, it was a living nightmare, alive with the sins of his past. Elisa's fading presence prompted him to dig deeper. What do you want, Jake? The echoes of his past whispered, mixing with the cold wind that blew through the empty corridors of his mind. What do you really crave? The question spiraled into his thoughts, wrapping around him like a rope that tightened with each heartbeat. His palms slicked with sweat, heart racing as if trying to escape through his chest. Each beat screamed for clarity, a desperate plea for meaning amid the encroaching darkness. I want, he started, then hesitated, fear gnawing at him. What did he want? To be forgiven? To rewrite his story? Or perhaps even to forget? The ground beneath him roared with sudden ferocity, and Jake stumbled back as the shadows surged forward, almost hungry for his anguish. They were barriers he had erected over the years, each one towering like a monolith, blocking the sunlight of possibility from breaking through. Face us. Tom's echo was sharp and cold. Don't pretend you didn't hear the screams. Jake's breath quickened, memories crystallizing into sharp images, friendships lost, laughter silenced, trust shattered like glass underfoot. Each fragment felt like daggers that pierced his resolve. I was scared. He shouted, his voice breaking. I didn't know how to help. I thought if I turned away, you'd be safe. But safety wasn't what we needed, was it? Elisa's voice reverberated. You thought sheltering us would shield you from the storm. But you left us vulnerable instead. The pain crushed him. It felt like a weight held to his chest, stealing the air from his lungs. What can I do now? Identify the truth and then confront it, she urged. You must stop running. Jake clenched his fists again, the resolve surging once more as he faced the looming darkness. Slowly, he turned his gaze towards the monstrous figures. I will not avoid you any longer. Show me. With each word, tendrils of darkness peeled away, revealing fragments of his past screaming faces, open wounds, endless cycles of anguish. But amidst the chaos, a faint light flickered in the distance, beckoning him forward with a promise of understanding. The figures writhed as if the light burned them, screaming in anguish. You can't face us. You can't change history. They jeered, their voices an ugly chorus echoing through the hollowness. Yes, I can. Jake roared. I will change what this means to me. As he approached the light, he felt himself teetering on the edges of despair and redemption. It glowed brighter, illuminating the path before him. A choice lay ahead: continue back into the comforting shadows of ignorance, or step into the painful brightness of truth. But before he could decide, a deafening roar erupted from behind. The shadows clawed at him, a tidal wave of regret and guilt crashing over him as he struggled against the thrumming din, the anguished wails of all he'd betrayed. Just as the light reached for him, illuminating the contours of his fears, he was jolted by a piercing voice rising above the chaos, echoing against his mind. Are you ready to face who you truly are? The question struck like a bolt of lightning, leaving him breathless. It was the very essence of who he'd avoided all along, the soul he had hidden in the dark. Could he confront the depths of his own darkness? Could he emerge whole on the other side? Unanswered questions spiraled within him like a storm as the shadows loomed closer. What awaited him on the brink of revelation was now terrifyingly clear. He had to make a choice, and time was running out. Would he have the courage to step into the blinding light of truth, or would the darkness swallow him whole once more? Only one thing was sure: whatever lay ahead would change him forever. Jake's heart raced as the light flickered before him, pulsating like a heartbeat, a call to arms. The shadows roared in defiance, howling like a tempest threatening to sweep him away. You can't escape us. They screeched as memories swirled and warped, painting a picture of misery etched in his mind. The cacophony pressed against his chest, and for a moment, he felt like he was drowning. No. He gritted his teeth. He couldn't let the darkness win, not again. With every ounce of resolve, he stepped forward into the brilliant glow, determined to embrace the truth that loomed ahead. I am here to face you. He shouted into the void, his voice steady, though fear danced on the edge, and then he was engulfed in the light, warm and suffocating all at once. It felt like an embrace from the universe itself, dulling the sharp edges of haunting memories while igniting a spark of clarity within him. I accept everything, he declared, drawing breath filled with strength absorbed from the inner radiance. As the brightness swirled around him like a gentle whirlwind, he found himself transported into yet another scene. This time, he stood outside a familiar house, Elisa's home. The air felt thick with a heavy nostalgia as whispers from the past beckoned him closer. He stepped inside, and the living room unfolded before him like a faded photograph: the worn couch, the family portraits on the wall, and the dim light that flooded through the window. Elisa was there, laughing, joyous, surrounded by friends. They were celebrating, and the sound of laughter rang in his ears, loud and full. But as he watched, shadows crept into the corners, darkening the lively scene. Each trace of anguish reached for him, desperately trying to reclaim the blissful moment. "Elisa!" He choked out, desperation surging through him. "I'm so sorry." She turned, her face illuminated with hurt. "You left me, Jake. When the storm hit, and I needed you most, you vanished. You shattered everything we built." "I was scared," he admitted, tears streaming down his face. "I thought abandoning the hurt would keep you safe. I thought I was protecting you. But it wasn't your choice to make." She shouted, the room shaking with her rage and sorrow. "You think turning your back on me was the answer? I suffered in silence while you ran from the pain." With that, the laughter dissolved into a hollow silence, leaving only the bitter truth to hang in the air. Jake felt his knees buckle as guilt crashed down on him like a tidal wave, pulling him under, drowning him in self-recrimination. Every moment of joy wrestled with every instance of pain. He had caused a storm brewing, ready to tear apart the very fabric of his soul. Suddenly, the scene shifted. They were in the hospital room again, Elisa lying still in the sheets, her face pale, the beeping machines a reminder of reality. Jake felt himself suffocating under the weight of the night he had abandoned her, every choice burning hot against his skin. "I was a coward," he screamed, falling to his knees beside her bed, the truth rushing out uncontrollably. "I failed you, and I can never take that back." Elisa's spirit materialized, eyes locked on his with an intensity that pierced his defenses. "It's not too late, Jake," she said softly. There was a hint of warmth in her voice, a desperate wish for reconciliation. "You have the strength to face the truth. Can you promise to do better?" "I promise." He cried out, the words erupting from his heart, raw and honest. "I will face every consequence of my actions. I want to make amends for everything I've done, even if it tears me apart." Elisa smiled faintly, but shadows gathered, tendrils wrapping around her once more. "Then stand strong as you confront the weight of your choices." The room began to fade, swirling again into the fog of uncertainty. "Face them, Jake," she urged, her voice a beacon. "You must confront the ghosts of your past to build a new future." He nodded, inhaling deeply. "I will, not just for you, but for me." With renewed determination, Jake stepped forward into the depths of the darkness that had shackled him for so long. As he crossed the threshold, he saw images flash before him, scenes where guilt twisted like a knife, the moments he turned away, the friends whose trust he betrayed, the laughter that gave way to anguish. "Are you sure you can handle the truth?" echoed a voice, cold and sharp, like glass. "Yes," he replied with conviction. "No more running. I will fight for forgiveness, for healing. I won't let guilt suffocate me any longer." Suddenly, the darkness recoiled, and the shadows whirled faster, becoming both terrifying and freeing as Jake reasserted his resolve. He sprinted toward the core of his fears, feeling the sharp breath of regret at his back, but it no longer paralyzed him, it propelled him forward. As he faced the swirling chaos, he knew that the darkness might still pull him in. The fear of what lay ahead was real, but as he let out a yet unheard scream of truth, the shadows began to dissipate. The moment he accepted every aspect of his past, the remorseless guilt transformed into something else, a burning desire to reconcile. Light burst through in overwhelming waves, and he surged forward, grasping the luminous thread of possibility that intertwined his fate with forgiveness. "I'm ready," he yelled into the light, and the rush of clarity overwhelmed every doubt that lingered. Elisa's presence shimmered beside him, her hand warm on his shoulder. "Then walk with me toward the healing that awaits," she encouraged, her smile filled with hope, guiding him beyond the shadows into a future that now seemed bright and open, ready to embrace the realities he was finally willing to face. Together, hand in hand, they stepped into the light, one filled with forgiveness, renewal, and the promise of new beginnings. This was his moment of redemption, a choice to move forward instead of retreating into the darkness. The past would always be a part of him, but it no longer defined him. Jake had finally unshackled his heart, ready to confront the world anew. Amidst the echoing call of his journey, here stands every one of you. What truths are you ready to face? What chains will you choose to break? You need to subscribe now, because the stories that await you are just as transformative. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these tales alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions about Jake's journey, because your thoughts matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Your support is the lifeblood of this community we're building together.